Good evening. I'm with Mr. Chris Daniel Wong. He is the CEO of CoMetro Capital, which is a private equity company, as well as the president of Malaysia Digital Chamber of Commerce. So Chris has been an avid entrepreneur and an avid learner as well, and is currently reading law. So you come with a whole lot of experience and expertise. So, but something has hit us, and it's the COVID-19 pandemic, and we are now still at home, obviously, abiding as good citizens under the movement control order. So, how are you keeping?
Well, I think first and foremost, it was the right call to actually institute this MCO. Although it is very painful for business, very painful for the economy, but I felt that it was the right call. But personally, I felt it was a bit too late. We could have instituted a better response back in January, but anyhow, it's been said and done. But right now, we are going through it.
Right, it's unprecedented. It's a bitter medicine, but something that we all have to take for the time being. Right. Now, I would like to talk a little bit about the impact of this MCO. Shops are not open with the exception of essential goods and services. How has that impacted business? And since you are the president of the MDCC, how does it impact particularly digital services and those involved in e-commerce and startups, technology? Can you give us an insight?
Well, I think across the board, you've seen a surge in e-commerce order. Before talking to you just now, this is the first time that I downloaded Tesco apps and I downloaded Happy Fresh apps, not to mention Jobcom as well. There's a surge of orders whereby inside their apps or even their website, it is written that they cannot process new orders. I tried Tesco app just now. What happened was that Tesco can only deliver on the 10th of April. Can you believe that? Tesco can only deliver on the 10th of April. So it tells you that the e-commerce business in the spectrum of grocery, daily necessity, it is still doing well. I'm not so sure about fashion, those non-essential items, but definitely the grocery market has been doing very well. And I think with the continuous lockdown until the 14th of April, there will be a surge of orders. So in terms of feedback from our members in MDCC, those essential items, they are doing well, but those non-essential items, they are not doing well. If you look at the payment gateway, some of the members reported that they've seen a surge in payment gateway usage as compared in the past. Because everybody is now using payment gateway to make payment anyway. So you've seen there's a surge. So these two segments, they are doing well. Payment gateway and essential items that is based on our e-commerce platform. So, those brick and mortar with customer experience kind of business, I felt that after even the MCO has been lifted up, store goes back to business as usual, I felt it's going to be very challenging for them because a lot of people now is very tight on cash. They will not spend unnecessarily. In the past, you see that people actually go to the stores, try to experience things new. And even in the past, you see that there's a lot of items being discounted at 50%. In some way, I remember that I saw Levi's store even went to a 70% discount, which is unprecedented. We have never seen Levi's store goes at 70% discount. Even Zalora, you can even order online, but I went to Zalora and checked it out. You see items being discounted 50 to 70% discount. So although e-commerce moved back to brick and mortar for customer experience, but I thought it's going to be very challenging because the entire credit market is so tight at this moment.
Right. So when you're looking at e-commerce or even omni-channel, O2O, we can't overgeneralize. So you are saying that essentials are doing well, but something that goes beyond essentials, experience, we don't need that anymore, right? Because people are rethinking their priorities. What about business enabling technologies, such as last mile delivery and all that? So seems that even traditional retailers, traditional F&B operators, they have got no choice but to jump into the bandwagon. And
I look at it that business with technology enablement will also find it challenging. I just take China for example. China export accounts for 40% of their 60% of their gross domestic product. Right now, Europe have cancelled, not even a delay. They have cancelled major shipments of clothes or fashions. Food continue to be ordered, but besides food, everything else has stopped. Even electrical items, components of products from China has also been stopped. So these companies that produce fashions are all technology driven. These companies that produce electrical goods are all technology driven as well. So Malaysia will also be affected. I have received feedbacks from some of my members who are in the logistics sectors. There are piles of containers right now in Port Klang.
That's right.
Unclaimed. These are raw materials, unclaimed goods. So what will happen to that raw materials? Of course, this raw material doesn't have so soon expiry date. They are probably fabrics or probably component, electronic component goods. But will the businesses have this kind of cash to actually, what we call it, to claim the goods out and pay the suppliers? I don't think so. So you would, unless the bank comes in and give them the facilities to bring out this kind of raw materials out. And even if they bring out, they will find it challenging to even pay salary, rental, or to start production again. So that technology-driven sectors will also be affected badly after the market reopens. So I term it the credit crunch. The credit is very tight. A lot of this manufacturing that is based on technologies will also be affected because there is no liquidity in the market.
Yeah. So it affects everything throughout the entire ecosystem, from upstream right down to the downstream. I like the way you talked about, credit crunch, and then some people put it as, they use this word, cash is king. So, so today to an entrepreneur, either you want to start up or you want to survive, or you want to, even less so thinking about growing, how do you access cash? So traditionally we have always looked at customers, and sales revenue in order to generate cash. What other ways do we access this cash right now? Because it can come from many other sources, from debts and from raising capital. So which you think is the most ideal way of raising money right now?
Well, if you look at the Malaysian banking system, our banking system has been very robust since 1997, 1998, during the financial crisis. Even back in 2008 and 2009, we don't have liquidity issue. At that time, the Prime Minister that came on board actually introduced about a 6 billion ringgit package, stimulus package. And today, the Prime Minister introduced a 25 perhaps I got it wrong, 25 or 250 billion ringgit package into the economy. Now, it doesn't matter what is the number.
250 billion.
250 billion. So it doesn't matter what is the numbers, but what is important is that for the government to introduce a stimulus package, they need to have liquidity. So our banks does have enough liquidity.
Correct, so because they have reserves.
It's a matter of whether the bank wants to loosen up the pipes, the water pipes, all right, in layman terms, and give up the loans. Because a lot of loans can be turned as non-performing loans if the credit credibility of the company is not good. So we don't have liquidity issue. because the bank has the money. So it's whether the bank want to loan it out or doesn't want to loan it out. So that's the first way.
So what do you think of the appetite of the banks right now? I mean, recently with the announcement of various of the stimulus packages, the ISME loans, the moratoriums, I mean, we know banks are conservative in nature, right? But we are living in extraordinary times. Are the banks going to change?
In fact,
are they willing to
I look at
steps and take
the bank can even
risk?
give moratorium for 1 year. I look at it, the bank can even give moratorium for 1 year because they have so much excess cash on hand. Can you believe that? They have so much excess cash on hand. Just look at their last 2 years profit after tax reports. They are actually declaring billions of what we call profit after tax. I'm talking about profit after tax, not even profit before tax. Billions. So what does it tell you? The bank is laden with cash, especially those very traditional banks, which I don't want to mention their names, but we know who are they. They have so much cash. So that's the first way that businesses can raise capital from the market, which is actually through bank lendings. Now, second way is, I just read a report yesterday from one of the private equity websites. Three big private equity companies in the world. The first one is Blackstone. The second one is KKR. They have hoard cash about 1.75 trillion US dollar. I repeat, 1.75 trillion US dollar. The three big private equity firms in the world. And a lot of bankers, economists, always call them vulture venture capitalists. They are vultures because right now with so much dry powder, so much cash on hand, they are actually entering into the market and buy companies at a very cheap valuation.
Yeah, they just
hotels,
pick and choose. Yeah,
hotels, cinemas, F&B, things that has been overvalued in the past has now become so cheap because they have so much dry powder, cash on hand. So in Malaysia, there are many private equity companies that have this kind of cash. So, but it comes with a price. It comes with a high, what we call interest, or it comes with a high, what we call, not high, but high interest or undervalued takeover. Your share could be 1 unit for $10 in the past.
Yeah, sharks.
But right now,
they take up your shares and they undervalue your company.
Correct. Right now it's fire sale. Right now it's fire sale. I'm going to offer to you one unit at probably 3 ringgit. Take it or leave it.
Right. So in this scenario, and then should we as business owners, approach the traditional banks, or should we seek out this sharks and vultures, as you say? I mean, what are the pros and cons of each and another, and how are they relevant in which scenario?
Sometimes you have no choice. It all depends on the debt to equity ratio. For example, if banks traditionally looks at the debt to equity ratio of 1.6, that's a threshold, 1.6. If your debt is 2 million, your net debt, and your equity is 2 million, your net equity, so 2 million divided by 2 million is 1.0. So will the bank loan you money? Yes, the bank will loan you money. So, but how much is it? It depends. But if your net debt is 2 million and your net equity is 1 million, so 2 divided by 1 is 2, over the threshold of 1.6, will the bank loan you money? The answer is no. So if the bank don't loan you money, so what are you going to do? You have no choice but to actually go to the capital market to raise money from the VCs or from the private equity people. I mean, it's actually a chicken and egg story, and it depends on willing buyer, willing seller, on how much are you going to give up your shares of your company to the private equity fund. I give one example, Dato. Back in 2008 and 2009, during the subprime crisis in the United States, the United States government bailed out General Motors of billions. When they bail out, they give grants, but in returns of grant, they also took up the shares. But General Motors did very well since 2010 all the way to 2017. You see, there is a lot of Chinese in China buying GM cars. We are talking about their brands of car. It could be GM or Mustang and so forth. So because the sales in China were so good at the time, they are able not to repay back the government, but they are able to rebuy back their shares from the government. of United States. Probably the arrangement was 1-to-1 or 1-to-1.1, I do not know, but they're able to. So at this point, if you are forced to take money from the private equity, right, from the private equity or private equity company, you should work out a mechanism whereby, can I buy back my share at the value of 1.0x or 1.1x or 1.2x? So that is, again, I said earlier, willing buyer, willing seller.
Right. Before we go into that micro negotiation, I'm going to get back to that issue. Has there been a change in the attitudes of private equity and other forms of funders and investors over the past year? You know, and how is that going to change moving forward right now? I mean, we have this economic crisis as a result of low oil prices, trade wars, and now recently the COVID pandemic. Are they more careful? Because you say that right now they are like vultures, they have got hordes of funds, they come and pick and choose, they squeeze. But from my understanding, these investors are, they have more whys today, right? So we had those from the Valley, then we had another group from China, and now everyone are asking hard questions. Easy money is no longer there. What is your view on that? Is that too simplistic?
Well, to answer this question, Dato', there are a lot of high net worth in the market. This high net worth has a lot of cash. And of course, they work with the private equity or VC company to actually disburse out the cash as a form of investment. Your statement was correct. They become much more wiser, especially during the mid-slump in the 2010. There was a mid-slump back in 2014, 15, when oil prices dropped from $120 per barrel to $80 per barrel. There was a mid-slump during that period. These high net worth investors has become, as you said, much more wiser. At this present point, investors that works to private equity or VCs will only look at business that has a mass scale. For example, F&B business. If you have a chain of restaurants and you have mass scale of customers, they will actually come to you and invest in you. But if you are a one chain restaurant providing uniqueness of menu, chances are very slim because you don't have that mass scale. You are catering towards middle income class and above. We are talking about not the M40, but the M40 and above, you see. So it really depends on industry. If you are in the cinema business, they will come to you. But if you are in the independent cinema business, having one or two cinema, because of your ticket is going to cost like 40 ringgit, 50 ringgit per show compared to a GSC or TGV that is 15 or 20 ringgit, they won't come to you.
Probably so because again, business has that huge upside that
yes.
Right.
Because once the B40 or the M40 has the cash to spend, they will definitely spend on this kind of mass products.
Yeah.
Not the kind of we have been in so many classes. We talk about IR 4.0. We talk about manufacturing services will become manufacturing will become services instead of manufacturing. We actually service manufactured based on what we call that customized order.
That's
but
right.
In this economic climates, will we go back to the customized order? No, we will go back to the mass order, cheap and good, because this pandemic just suddenly took out the entire IR 4.0 just like that. We used to customize our shirt, for example, but will we customize our shirt now? So the answer is chances are very slim because we will go back to the mass production. So IR 4.0 will be taken aback for mass consumer, but IR 4.0 for healthcare will go forward. So VC would definitely invest in IR 4.0 in healthcare, but not in consumer products. So the dynamic has changed.
Correct. But one of the great things about IR 4.0 is it caters to the mass and yet still offers some form of specialization, if you will, or personification.
Well, China can do that. I don't see many of our Malaysian companies can do that.
Right. So back to Malaysia, back to the ground. So right now, if I want to raise capital, what should I do to get ready before I hit this market?
Well, I always tell people ABC. It's always ABC. First, prepare your audit report well. In the private equity market, audit report always play an important part. If you don't have an audit report, you try to raise capital even from me, the answer is always no. Second, we want to see a robust business plan, a business plan that is disruptive to the mass market. So business plan. Third, I mentioned audit just now. We need to see your 3 years projection. Some people are doing 1 million revenue this year. And suddenly, next year, they project to do 5 million. I mean, we are all entrepreneurs. Can you from 1 million to 5 million? Unless your business is so great, it's so disruptive, maybe you can. So when you prepare your revenue projection and your profit projection, it has to be making sense. It has to make common sense. Probably 1 million become 1.5 million or 1.4 million. That makes common sense. Not 1 million to 2 million to 3 million. That doesn't make sense.
Correct. It has to be realistic. So this 3. And how do they get started? Who do they approach? What kind of information or resource can they access to?
Well, that is a very good question. I was planning to do a workshops right after the market reopened, but of course we need to have social distancing. Perhaps we can do it together, Datuk, with your ecosystem, a workshop to get entrepreneurs to come in on how we can prepare them for the next 3 months on capital raising. People always say that we can do webinar, but when it comes to technicality, it's always difficult to do it on webinar. You still need to do it on a personal to personal basis. And perhaps the class has to be limited because of social distancing. Instead of 40 to 50, perhaps 10 in a class, and then 10 in a class. Because of social, we are encouraged to do social distancing at this moment. Then we will have very impactful and very meaningful workshops on how we can help the SME entrepreneurs to prepare themselves for the next 3 months to come.
Right. Very, very interesting. So you still say that even your classes like that, you still need to meet face-to-face. Technology can't bridge every form of distance and space and time. Looks like it, right? So you think that's, yeah.
Well, we still need human touch, because why? When it comes to capital market, although right now they say there's so much financial relief COVID-19 loans, am I right? Bankers still need to see you. If they don't see you, they still need to call you first. And then you still need to go to the bank and witness you to sign certain things and so forth. So the personal touch still needs to be there. No matter how technology changes our life, something that won't change is always the personal touch. So you have no choice. When it comes to capital market, you still need that personal touch. Or market scouting, a market check, spot check. He will probably go to your restaurant and you may not know it, all right, because you are not there all the time. Your employees or your staff in the restaurant may not know that he's actually an investor. He will probably sit in the restaurant for 2 days or 3 days, trying to ascertain that whether your new business model in your restaurant is disruptive enough to bring in customers. And he will probably be like the income tax officer sitting in mama shop counting how many eggs that you break it to make roti china and sell and calculate the tax involved. Do you see that? So when it comes to capital, which is credit, you still need the personal touch.
Right. So what else? Again, probably you've already mentioned that. So how do if I need money right now, of course, what are the advantages of going to a private equity as opposed to taking up a loan?
So if you need money right now, my advice to many people who's going to watch this video is that there are a lot of P2P and there are a lot of COVID-19 relief funds, maximum up to 200,000. Although the bank never put figures, but from the sources that I get, they are trying to limit up to 200,000 because they want everybody to be able to receive that. First, go to the bank or P2P, right? 100,000 to 200,000 is available there immediately. So get that first to survive for 1 month or 2 months. Then look at the ABC model that I mentioned just now. Start preparing your paperwork, and then come and see the private equity people or maybe the VC and talk to them on a potential capital raising with the high net worth investors or with the VCs.
Right. So your tip is get ready with your ABC. In the meantime, as a stopgap, get to the banks for those easy collateral-free loans. Any other advice for us Malaysians, startup businesses, SME businesses during this period?
One advice: this year and next year, do not expand, just survive. Do not expand, just survive.
All right.
That is my advice.
Thank you very much. So with those parting words, I am with Mr. Chris Daniel Wong, the CEO of CoMetro Capital and President of MDCC. Thank you so much for your time. Chris, it's good to see you. Thank you. Have a great evening.
Thank you. And stay safe.
Stay safe too. Bye-bye.